Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Honestly, it's been a hot second since I've sat down and done a video. I thought it'd be fun to kind of show you my top 10 favorite books of 2023 so far. Kind of like the mid-year point. I've read, how many books have I read so far? I think I've read 42 books, which is not as many as I want to read, but that's okay. Technically there are 10 books, but one of them is a series. It counts. Okay, it counts. Do I have stuff in my teeth? Ew. I had something in my teeth and nobody was gonna tell me? That's really rude. You should have told me. Or maybe you did. You probably commented in the comments as soon as you saw it. And you're like, ew. The first book I have is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I read this in January. This is about a girl named Jasmine who is a competitive figure skater, but she's a pairs figure skater and her partner kind of dropped her, kicked her to the curb, was like, I don't want to work with you anymore. And so she doesn't have a partner for the season, and she's kind of in this stage of life where she wants to be a competitive figure skater, but she can't. And so her greatest enemy, Ivan Lukov, who is an Olympic gold medalist figure skater, goes up to her and says, hey, I need a new partner for the season. Will you be my partner for a couple months? And so they become partners. And it's so good. This one's enemies to lovers, sports romance, because they're figure skaters, slow burn. This book made me realize how much I love a good slow burn, especially if they're kind of enemies to lovers. But when they don't like each other and it's a slow burn, they become friends and then they start to like each other, that's my favorite. So highly recommend. So the next books I have are the Legendborn cycle series. See, now you know why I said technically 9 books, but they're actually 10 books, but this is a series. It's confusing. So I read both of these in January, and the first book is Legendborn. This is a YA fantasy about this girl named Bree who is having kind of a rough time right now. Her mother has just passed away, and she's also starting this whole new school program at a college. And so one day she kind of happens upon this magical society and she starts to learn more about it, and it'll just take off from there. This book is really good, don't get me wrong, I really like it, but the beginning of this book was super hard for me to get into. I felt like I was really confused for half of this book. I was like, what is going on? But finally you'll get it. It's a slow process to get into this book. It was just really confusing. But the book that is worth it in this, Bloodmarked. This is the second book. It is so good. It's so good. The character relationships in this found family of friends are just so good together. The character banter is so good. The actual fantasy, the storyline, the plot is so good in this one. I loved it so much. I'm so excited for the third book too. So the last book that I have that I read in January that was 5 stars was A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. This is a series. I've read the second one. Don't read it, it's not good. But this one's really good. This one is about a girl named Lottie, and she is kind of having some financial issues. She just got fired from her job and her parents kind of want to kick her out of the house. So she's having financial issues, and so she needs money. So she just happens to be walking in the rich district of her town. This guy named Huxley runs into her. And Huxley is also kind of in a dilemma because he kind of lied to this real estate guy and was like, yeah, I have a family, I have a fiance, we're starting a family too. But he doesn't have a fiance. And so he needs to find somebody to kind of fake date, play pretend that they are his fiance. Right? This book just caught me off guard. I had heard about it from TikTok, but I never thought much of it. But I read it, I just picked it up on a whim and I read it, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. I love Lottie and Huxley's relationship. They're kind of enemies to lovers a little bit too. I just really enjoyed this book. I had a great time reading it. I loved their dynamic. I loved the way the writing was, but don't read the second book. The second book is terrible. Don't read it. But this one was good. I liked this one. So in February, I gave 5 stars to Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the last installment of the Dreamland Billionaire series. This one is about Cal, who is the middle child, and he has to go down to the lake house and sell the lake house. But the thing is, his ex-childhood lover lives in the lake house and she owns half of the property as well. So he kind of has to convince her to give up her home basically. And she's like, no. And so they kind of reconnect again. This was the best book out of the Dreamland Billionaire series. It was amazing. I felt like it was very complex. Obviously Cal has a lot of he had a lot of problems. This book was just so good. So it's second chance, friends to lovers, childhood friends to lovers, forced proximity because he has to be there. I don't know. I felt like this book was just so different compared to the rest of the books in this series, and I just enjoyed it so much more. And that's it. This one's so good. I'm sorry, but anybody who was like, I don't like this last one, you were crazy. This one was so good. I loved the last one. My next book that I read in February is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. So this one is about a girl named Eva. She's a romance author, and she's like going to this convention, I think, and has reconnected with like an old flame, and his name is Shane, and he is also a writer. It's really cute because they like self-insert like the other person into their own novels, so like they write about the other person. This book is just so good because it's a second chance romance, but also you get a lot from like Shane and Eva's past. I liked knowing about their past, how that affected them, and how they came to be, and like what they do now, and how like them reconnecting again. But it also kind of felt like a general fiction book too. Like it was a romance, but it also felt like a general fiction book because it tells about their lives separately as well. And the ending was just so good. That was like my perfect ending for like that kind of book. It was just, Tia Williams just like knocked it out of the park with 7 Days in June. I absolutely adored this book. Yeah, that's that one. And that's it. So in March, I think I only gave one book 5 stars, and that was The Right Move by Liz Tomford. Guys, if you only read one book on this list, please let it be this book. It's so good, so amazing that I was in a reading slump. Yeah, it was so good. This one is about a girl named Indy, and she's kind of, man, apparently I love when people struggle at the beginning of books. I'm just not realizing, like, she's struggling. Her boyfriend has just cheated on her, and she doesn't want to live in the same place as him. So Indy moves in with Stevie's twin brother, Ryan. Ryan is also an NBA player, and he's one of like the top NBA players. Like, he is like super famous. It's like, what does she say? It's like quiet love. It's basically like acts of service to a T. He does all these tiny little things that like people wouldn't like realize to do, and he does them for her, and it's just so cute. It just hits so good. Ryan Shea is it's my dream man, at least. I don't know if he's your dream man, but he sure is mine. He is just the sweetest to Indy. I loved this couple's relationship. I loved this banter. I loved the plot. Everything about this book was just so good, and I still think about it like almost all the time. This is probably my top book that I've read so far, and you need to read it. This is the only book that I gave 5 stars in April, but also it was the only book that I read in April, and that was Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blouse. So this book is about a girl named Mary Jane, and for the summer she is babysitting this little kid. She kind of comes from a very like conservative family. They're very strict, they have very set ways of like doing life, and the family that she's babysitting for though is very like liberal and very like free thinking, free thoughts, and they're very different from what Mary Jane knows. This book is just so amazing. It's very character driven. You learn about a lot of different characters, and it's just such a great coming of age story. I was hardcore living through Mary Jane. Like, I wanted to be her. So this is the book that I gave 5 stars in May, and that was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is a book about a girl named Oriah, and she is a human living in the vampire kingdom. She's also the king's like adopted daughter. She's training her whole life to win this thing called the Kajari. It's a big tournament, kind of like the Hunger Games, but the winner of the Kajari gets a wish from their goddess Nixia, I think that's her name. So she joins it. She kind of meets an unlikely ally named Rain, and it's also a little romance, and it's so good. Oh my god. I didn't think I would like this book that much. It's always the books that you're like, I don't know if I really like this book that much, or you're not too sure about, and then you read it and then you absolutely love it. This book is so fast-paced, but not like fast-paced in the sense that I don't know what's going on. There's so much happening all at once. It's not overwhelming. It's fast-paced in the sense that you're just going right into the story. Not a lot of like world building confusion. It's kind of like you are just jumping right into the story, and then you kind of figure out the world building as you go, and it's not confusing at all. That is like sometimes my biggest complaint with fantasy books. I feel like authors sometimes like to overcomplicate it when it really doesn't have to be. And this book is the perfect example of not overcomplicating a fantasy storyline and still making it really, really good. It felt very Twilight meets Hunger Games, and it was really good. Last book that I have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Y'all know this is gonna be in here. Happy Place is about a girl named Harriet, and every summer her friends and her, they go to like the summer beach house in Maine every year. But the thing is, her ex-fiance is also part of this like kind of friend group, and her friends don't know that they have broken up. So her and her ex-boyfriend Win kind of have to fake date and pretend they are still together even though they haven't like seen each other in like a couple months. So, because they don't want to like ruin the vacation. This book is such an accurate depiction of adult friendships. It's insane. I think being an adult now and having been through kind of some of these scenarios and things that have happened, Emily Henry's writing in this was just so spectacular, like always. I felt like this one, even the banter felt a little different in this book than it did in her other books. It felt more mature. It felt like this was something that a lot of people and a lot of adults can relate to, and it's not like super sweet and sunshiny. It felt real. And I just really related a lot to this book. Like, I related a lot. Me and Harriet felt like the same person at one point. I was like, oh my god, is Emily Henry writing about my life? Because this felt a little too real. Highly, highly recommend. Probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite Emily Henry book right now. So yeah, that's that. Those are all the books that I have given 5 stars so far in the year. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys